You're listening to Mouth Mentality, where we talk to everyday people about everyday food. Hello, and welcome to Mouth Mentality. I'm Chef Heidi Marsh, and we talk to everyday people about everyday food. And today we have Nik Kacy. Nik, I'm so happy that you're here with us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of just start off talking a little bit about where you're from, where you grew up, just to get kind of the background.
Yeah, so I was born in Hong Kong. When I was 7, I moved to New York. Was bullied a lot as a kid because I didn't speak the language, but because like when I moved to New York, not only did I have to learn to speak English, but I had to learn to speak Mandarin because that's my mom's side of the family. That's what they spoke.
And what did you speak?
I spoke Cantonese.
Cantonese,
Yes,
okay.
what they speak in Hong Kong. And so, ironically, now actually my Cantonese is the worst, and my Mandarin is the second best, and then English is my best.
And how long did you live in New York for?
I lived in New York for like over 10 years.
Okay. Most of your like teenage years and
Yeah.
school age
Yeah.
teenage years. So tell me what your earliest memory of food is.
Well, I was very blessed that my family are basically all chefs.
Wow,
Yeah.
here we go, guys.
Yeah,
Buckle up.
and so I think I never real. Of course, I think I took it for granted as a kid because you don't know because that's just what I grew up with, you know.
Right,
so
right.
I just assumed like everybody's cooking is this good, or maybe that as a kid I didn't even realize how good it was until I left. Right.
Sure.
So like when I think about like my grandma was just like an amazing chef. My uncles had restaurants in New York, and my aunts were great cooks. My mom's a great cook. And my mom's the youngest, so she really learned from like all of the siblings and of course her parents, you know. But when I think of my favorite like dish, like the smell and the taste, the first food I always crave is this dish my grandma would always make, which is eggs and tomatoes. And it's so simple.
Does it have like a Chinese name or is it called something?
Yeah, in Chinese it's a fan tre dan.
Okay.
And so fan tre is tomatoes, cao dan is like stirred with eggs.
Served with eggs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, my mom was just here last week and she always makes it for me when she sees me.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, it's really great. And for some reason, just I try to make it by myself all the time because I love it. But it's just so much better when she makes it, you know. And of course, when my grandma made it, it was just like the best. And it's just like something that just makes me feel so comforted.
Going back to the old classic or the old like comfort food of the family, you know, and it's really hard to recreate those.
Yeah, and there's so many more dishes that I grew up with that were just so good that my grandma would make. I think that's also why I don't go out to eat Chinese food as much because it's just never the same.
Right.
You know? So it's like, why bother?
Right, exactly. And did you do any cooking with your grandma or anybody in your family when you were young?
Yeah, it's funny because like when I was growing up, my grandma would force me to stay in the kitchen and watch and help prepare.
Oh, wow.
And I hated it because it was such a like gendered thing. Like
Right.
women are in the kitchen, and being trans, I think I always felt like, why do I have to be in the kitchen? I don't feel like I should be here, you know.
Right.
And it's not something like I craved or wanted to do. And I think it was because it was so forced that like you're a girl, so you have to do this and like serve all the men, any type of thing.
Oh, right. It became more of a role for you.
Yeah, that I just never enjoyed it, and I felt so like confined and like imprisoned, you know.
Right.
But as an adult, I definitely recognized the benefits and how even when I didn't love it, I actually still ingrained so much information from watching and sitting with my grandma that I remember like even in like college and after college when I first started like having my own place and inviting friends over and I would cook and I would just like wing it. Like I would just go off of like what I think I wanted to make and there's no recipes or like I just go
Right.
with my feel and like people would just be like, "This is so good," you know.
Right.
And so I was just like, I think I just got lucky. I picked it up, you know.
What kinds of things did you cook for your friends in college? Like what, did you cook some of the classic dishes or did you just
Yeah.
put some stuff together?
Mix and match, like
Sure.
you know, like I love Japanese food, and so sometimes I'd make like some Japanese dishes. I'd mix in like some Chinese dishes, and then
Right.
some Western stuff. And like, you know, I think I would just like pick ingredients I wanted to taste
Sure.
and then put it together and And so far no one's complained. So
Right. So you kind of learned a little recipe growing up, and you learned a little technique because you were forced into it. But then, how do you think that relationship changed as you see food? I think we talked a little bit more about you see food as a community, as like bringing people together, having a conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's what happened. Like as I moved out and got my own place and like had friends and started building community. And so much of it was like seeing the power of you slave away like on this meal for all of your friends,
Right.
and they all sit down, and then all of a sudden there's just like quiet and peace because people are enjoying the food, and also in that moment like you're all bonding like in an unspoken kind of way, which I really felt was so powerful for me.
Right, and you might be introducing people to something that they might not normally have, right, too. So that's got to be interesting. I know we went out to dim sum one time, and everyone was like, "Oh, I've never had chicken feet, or I've never had, I've never had, what's this, what's that, what's that, and people try it and they like it or they don't like it.
Right.
Do you have an experience where like you've introduced some new things to maybe people and
Yeah, I think I love to kind of flip with my friends sometimes by not telling them what they're eating.
Okay.
And I want them to just try it without any kind of bias.
Sure.
And then after they eat it, then I'll tell them what it is. Because I think so many, particularly Western people, have like a lot of preconceived notions about certain types of food based on like what it is. It's like you say chicken feet, for example, and all of a sudden like a lot of people are like, no, right?
Right.
If you remove that kind of assumed bias,
Sure.
then you might actually just taste the flavor and be like, wow, this is amazing,
Right.
And so I've had a lot of instances where people would be like, no, but tell me what it is. I was like, just try it first. Just try it and I'll tell you.
And what were you serving? Do you recall at the time?
Oh God, there's been so many instances I can't really remember what they were. It was so long ago.
Right. So you like to pull out the magic bag of tricks on people sometimes.
Yeah, because it's all an experience, and somehow it seems like such a like minute, like a microcosmic way of inspiring someone to change their perspective.
Right. Just trying something they normally wouldn't try, kind of pushing that boundary a little bit.
Right.
Which is cool, and then they might end up liking it anyways.
Exactly. And literally I think like 90% of the time the person liked it and then was like, oh, right, I would have never tried this had I known what it was.
Right. Had no idea. Did you ever celebrate any kind of holidays or traditions with your family growing up?
Yeah, I mean, Chinese traditions, I think my family, you'd say we're Buddhist, but we don't practice it. Like, so the only time we practiced Buddhism was like in birth and death.
Okay.
And then as far as like holidays, like traditional Chinese holidays were really like very seasonal.
Okay.
So like there would be like the autumn festival or like the New Year, moon cakes and like all sorts of like little desserts or treats, in that birth there would be like little buns that you eat that look like a peach, but they're just a bun with like sweet lotus bean inside. I think honestly I've been so on my own for so long. Like I've been in LA now for 30 years.
Wow, 30 years.
Yeah, this year was actually my 30th anniversary, and I realized that like being so independent on my own, building my new like community, especially that's very queer centric.
Sure.
That I had lost so much of my heritage because I was so focused on like being out and proud and visible and like accepted within the community. First as like a lesbian, and then as a trans person, and then like now non-binary.
Yeah.
It's been so many layers of like trying to survive and thrive. That being Chinese was kind of like, I did that like when I was an immigrant and newly in New York.
Right.
Like I didn't feel like I needed to like focus so much on that, but I gotta say the last few years, I think the pandemic gave me so much time to reflect, and it kind of, when the pandemic started to be over,
be over.
We started to like see people and gather again. I realized that I was seeking out like Asian queer groups,
right?
Because I really missed that part of my life, and like I lost so much of like using my language, for example.
I think it was a mackerel, if I remember right, that our friend Tiffany prepared.
Yeah.
She's Taiwanese, and she she went all out. She had a whole big spread, and it was really about the sharing, right? And you didn't necessarily know what some of the things were, but it was like, okay, try this. This is so good, even with this, and just all the different combinations and things on my plate was so overwhelming. But everything had such intense flavors and very delicious and really like well cared for. You know, so
it's a lot of work. Chinese food is incredibly like tedious work.
Yeah, and she was prepping many days before and cooking when we showed up. She was, you know, the gears were grinding in the kitchen, and she, you know, had us entertained with other things or helping cook as well. Are there any other kind of holidays that you maybe have reignited? I know I've seen you do some like Friendsgivings and things like that too, just as you build your community after COVID.
The one holiday I definitely really like, I wouldn't say celebrate because it's not something I think that is celebratory, which is Thanksgiving. But I do honor it by volunteering every year. I've done it for, I think, over 20 years. And it's for Gobble Gobble Give.
Oh yeah.
And you just go and feed the homeless. You help, you know, you can choose what you want to do. Like I've cooked the turkeys, I've shredded the turkey,
right.
I've packed the meals, I've driven and delivered it. I've done a variety of other things throughout the years, and that's kind of my tradition.
That's fantastic.
And it all started because I don't have family here, you know, before my community, of course. And so I didn't really know what to do with the holidays, and it was very depressing and sad,
right?
You know?
To be alone.
And so it's just like, fuck it, like let me go and give.
Yeah, I've tried to sign up for hunger related things right when the COVID hit and there was lockdowns. I was like, what can I do? I gotta get doing something as a chef. I'm like feeling like I always gotta be making and doing. And then I ended up, you know, 2 months later cooking for Boys and Girls Club and the homeless shelter at the Civic Center. And it was like,
I think giving is probably the best drug ever.
yeah.
Right? Like it's just like, it's not harmful and it feels great and other people feel great too.
So if people want to get involved in, you said Gobble Gobble Give, they just show up, or they?
I mean, I don't recommend everybody to show up, but I believe it's gobblegobblegive.org.
Right.
And you can sign up to prepare the turkeys, and they'll provide you the turkeys.
Right.
To cook, and obviously you can donate more turkeys if you want, and make a side dish, you know. And so like what I always try to do is like, when I'm able to, I try to cook a turkey, bring a side dish.
Wow.
Go help prepare the food, and then go deliver it.
Okay.
So that's kind of like my pattern now.
You're kind of like in every little facet of the thing, you know, from start to finish, which is great.
As well, yeah, because like why just do one small part when you can do a greater part of it? And also, there's something, I guess maybe it's a producer mentality. It's like, I like it to experience it from the start to finish.
Right.
You know,
you want to get your hands in everything.
Yeah, exactly. I want to see
that.
that whole process. And then at the end of it, when you are delivering the meals, it's such a great, like, fulfilling experience because you literally see the completion of the entire process.
Right. I recall when I saw that you had COVID, and I was like, yo, Nick, like, I didn't really know you that well. Like, I think I've met you a couple of times out and about. We became Facebook and Instagram friends. Yeah. And then I saw your post, and I was like, bro, what do you need?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and you did a lot more than I think just, like, give me some, I mean, you had given me, like, there were, like, noodles and pastas and grain bars, and I remember there was, like, all of these different types of things, and I just remember, like, wow, like, this is, like, I'm set for anything right now. It was really awesome, and I'm so grateful, like, because, yeah, I lived alone.
You did.
I'm already immunocompromised, so
right.
So when I got it in March, there were no tests yet.
Yeah, it was early. It was early on, I remember.
It was right before they closed down things, and I don't think anyone knew what hit them. And I just thought like I had a flu, except I couldn't breathe.
Right.
And then my oxygen dropped down to I think 82, and my friend who was a nurse in Florida, Dina, was like, "You need to go to the hospital." And she'd been telling me this for like 2 days, and I really didn't want to. And then when she finally convinced me, and I called to go to the hospital. Hi, cutie. I know. I survived. Don't worry. I know she got concerned.
Dogs are concerned about
Just
Nick.
telling you,
Yep.
sharing this sad story.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, and I finally was like, fine, like I'll call. I call them, and the paramedics show up, and they refused to come into my house.
Right.
They were like so afraid and scared that they literally forced me to come out of my own house when I was like, I can't breathe. You know what I mean? And I was so angry because I was like, this is literally like your one job.
Yeah. Right.
And if I'm like possibly dying, how are you expecting me to come out, you know? So like I really had to muster up all my energy, get out of the house, and yeah, they were like, we can't take you to the hospital unless your oxygen is below 80.
Wow.
And my friend who was a nurse was like, if you're below 80, like you're not gonna make it.
You're not gonna make it to the hospital.
Yeah, you know. And so I was so upset that they literally said like, call us when it's below 80.
Yeah.
And so after they left, you know, I'm like crawling back into my home.
I can just picture
Yeah.
you crawling into your home.
Yeah, locking back my door, and I was just so pissed. And I hadn't eaten. I hadn't even gone to the bathroom for 14 days.
Wow.
Because all of my organs, I think, were shutting down, like trying to focus on healing and breathing. I'd never experienced that before, and I just remember being really like kind of worried, like
You were really sick.
yeah.
Man.
And I didn't know if I was gonna make it. I was afraid to go to sleep. My friend, you know, the nurse, she was like, text me every 2 hours so I know that you're still alive. And so it became kind of like a job, like it was a task that every 2 hours I had to like text her. And I think when the paramedics left, I was so pissed that I was just like, fuck this shit.
Right.
I texted her, I was like, you know, I didn't even want to call them in the first place, and I had to go from this entire ordeal to get them to come here. And then they get here and they're not even gonna take me to the hospital. And I was like, fuck this, I'm done. I was like, I love you, I'm sorry, thank you so much for everything, but I just want to go to sleep.
Right.
And I was so tired, and so I was like, I'm gonna text you when I wake up.
Right.
And then, yeah, and I was just like, if I
Don't hear from
don't,
me.
yeah, then if I don't, I don't, you know?
See you in the
yeah.
afterlife or my next life.
Exactly.
Right.
And so, but somehow, I don't know, it was like being so pissed off
Huh.
actually kickstarted my body.
It fueled you up.
It fueled me
Right.
up. I slept for like 8 hours, first of all. So that was the longest I slept.
Oh, good.
Without any interruption. And I just like knocked the fuck out. And I think I just gave up, like, fuck this, you know?
Right.
And then, but then when I woke up in the morning, or in the afternoon, I don't remember.
At some point,
Yeah.
you
some
woke
point,
up,
yeah.
thank goodness.
I woke up and I remember just being like, I think I feel a little better.
Wow.
And then I was like, I think I have to pee. Like, I remember just being like, I feel like my body's awake for the first time in 14 days, you know? And yeah, and that was like a slow progression, like, and then my fever finally broke, and my oxygen was still bad, but like at least I was like, I peed, you know?
Peed.
Yeah.
Success.
Yeah.
Nick peed, guys.
It was incredible that my body was able to last that long.
That was 14 days.
14 days, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know to the extent of how sick you were or what was going on. I was like, I want to jump out. I want to help somebody because it feels good to help.
Yeah.
And I knew that you were alone,
Yeah.
you know.
And it's scary because
It is.
you know, and also because like no one's allowed to come over. No, like it would be like even if something happened to me, like who would know?
Who would know?
And then how would they even come in the house? Because nobody would be allowed. Like they would be afraid to, you know.
Yeah, it was such a weird time. There was
Yeah.
a lot of fear.
Yeah.
And it sounds like through that fear, you found some determination or anger and frustration that just fueled you to come
Yeah.
out on the other side of it, thank goodness.
Yeah, and it was also really beautiful, just like having so many of my friends, people I didn't know well, people I knew well, who were just like all coming together, dropping off meals. Like once I was able to eat,
Right.
you know, like once I was starting to get hungry, I was like roasting. Like,
Could you taste?
no, I didn't
No.
taste for
That was hard.
I think almost 2 or 3 months. I forget, but it was like a long time before I could taste.
That is hard.
Yeah.
I believe I had COVID in 2019.
Okay.
Right at the new year, we were down in San Diego. I was sicker than I'd ever been, and I could not taste, and I could not smell.
Yeah.
And it was before we even knew there was a COVID, right? I mean, people knew, we didn't know.
Right.
You know, and then I didn't get it
Somebody knew.
like the summer of 2022. You know, I couldn't taste anything, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Taste is such an essential sense for us.
Yeah.
You know,
especially as foodies.
As foodies, you know, I could smell everything acutely. And she was cooking all this, my wife was cooking all this fabulous duck and risotto, and it was so intense. And then I'd go to put it in my mouth and I couldn't taste anything. And I'm like, I just want crackers.
Yeah.
Crackers and soup. You know,
that was also what I ate.
Then I knew what it tasted like in my brain.
Yeah. Oh yeah, saltine crackers.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. And that became kind of a new favorite. I think it was also something my grandma used to give me when I was sick. I made a lot of porridge.
Okay.
You know,
like a congee or
just plain and it got me through and definitely made me appreciate when I did start tasting again. It was just like I went to get sushi. Like we tailgated. Because we weren't allowed to sit inside.
Right, yeah.
And so actually, used the back of my trunk.
Yeah.
Because I have a CRV. And I made, a little table in the back and they gave us 2 chairs, and we just ate, in our parking spot right in front of the restaurant. Right. Even a cop drove by.
Like you do.
And laughed.
What you gotta do for an experience. We had many of car tacos, Mila and I. Yeah. We took a drive up to San Francisco just as they released the lockdown, and Mila's like, well, we should go somewhere. I'm like, how are we gonna pee? She's like, on the side of the road. What do you mean, you know? And we ended up in Morro Rock and had fish tacos off a taco stand, and you know, there was a lot of taco time to be had in the front seat of the car, you know, because it was easy. You do what you can to have those experiences with food, no matter what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. So did you have any culinary wellness shifts or dietary shifts post-pandemic?
Honestly, post-pandemic, realized life's short.
Right.
And I'm gonna eat and enjoy whatever I can, whatever I can afford. Basically, as soon as I got better and I wasn't contagious anymore and tested negative, I spent a lot of time visiting different people who were immune compromised.
Right.
And bringing them food and sharing meals with them, because I knew what it felt like for them to be alone at home, you know?
Yeah.
So I did that a lot, and I also collected a lot of masks and PPEs and delivered them to different hospitals because I could. It was safe for me. I was one of the first safe people to be able to go expose myself because I already had it.
You already had it, yeah. So you, in some sense, were kind of immune to getting the worst of it again.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, I mean,
that's the deal, right?
The doctor basically was like, you're not gonna catch it again immediately, you know. So you have a good time frame.
That's right.
Before that, you're gonna be catching it again. So I was like, great, let me get out there because I've been in bed for almost 3 months.
By yourself, hiding out, picking up parcels on your front porch.
Exactly.
And now that some time has gone by, do you think you've had any other shifts, or are you still kind of in that life is short, eat what I want?
My biggest shift was a long time ago in I want to say in my 30s, or I think early 30s, when I really was working with a nutritionist to figure out what was wrong with my body, because being immunocompromised, I didn't know I really was.
Right.
I didn't know what that meant. I was too young and dumb to understand. So we worked on a lot of dietary issues and realized that I was eating a lot of things that my body was technically allergic to.
Like what?
Peas and pumpernickel and rye, things that you don't realize you're eating. If I remember a slice of bread, it never dawned on me oh, it's rye bread. I'm allergic. And peas in so many Chinese dishes.
Right.
So yeah, but that test, we did this blood allergy test, and just showed me all of these things. Like green was okay, yellow was like, and then there was red, which was like a long list of things that I no longer eat. So I think that shift alone was more than sufficient for me.
That set you up for like, this is how it's gonna be.
Yeah. So the things I can enjoy, I'm gonna enjoy it however I can.
However you can. And I really love how like we were initially talking about this podcast and you instantly went to community. You instantly went to the gathering and the whole relationship you have with food is with your community. I really love that. A lot of people, they think relationship with food, they go to diet, they go to ingredients, they go to exercise, and you just went right for community, which I think it says a lot about like how food can bring people together, start a conversation.
Yeah.
And that really aligns with a lot of how I feel as a chef.
Yeah. I mean, I think about every party that I've been to. And I remember almost every party, I always joke how like we're all just like circling and chatting around the kitchen.
Around the snacks.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's just the way it always is. Every party. Like literally, I don't think I've ever been to a party that was not like that.
That's amazing. I guess if you had, one message to people about, food, really, to sum it up, what would you tell everyone?
If I had one message about
food.
I guess it would be too much of a good thing is probably not a good thing.
Right.
But to be able to enjoy like all that life has to offer, whatever foods your body is able to enjoy it.
You guys, that's from Nik Kacy. Let me tell you, don't be afraid to try weird things your friends feed you. Don't be afraid to try things when you're out traveling. But don't eat too much of it if it's not good for you.
Yeah. Trust your body.
Trust your body, right? Mindful eating. Does that bring something to you?
Absolutely. I think mindful everything,
Right.
Not just eating, but mindfulness in general is such a, I think, important thing that I think we have to be mindful of.
Right. Be mindful of mindful things. It's been a pleasure talking with Nik Kacy.
Hey, I'm Nik Kacy, and my pronouns are they and them, and I'm the founder of Nik Kacy Footwear, the first gender equal footwear and accessories company, producer and founder of Equality Fashion Week, the only remaining queer-focused fashion week in the US right now. You can follow me at Nik Kacy, NIKKACY, also Nik Kacy Footwear, and don't forget to follow Equality Fashion Week.
I'm going to go ahead and conclude this episode, you guys. Thank you for listening to Mouth Mentality. Catch us when we dish out the next story.